Hello, friends. My name is Kathleen Whitehead. I channel a group called The Aspects of Love, but today we're doing a little something different. I am interviewing one of my new friends who I've met in a uh, Facebook group. I consider him one of the wise ones. I think that his postings are always very deep and interesting, and I resonate with it, and as most people in our group do. I would like you to meet Andrew Stacey, and we'll just start with thank you for being here, Andrew. And will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you, Kathleen. I really appreciate being here today. I'm terrified just for the viewers out there because I've never done an interview like this before.
Oh,
Part of my story is hiding in obscurity, I guess, because we live in a world that's, based on my age, has been fairly intolerant of anything woo-woo. And I've lived a life that was more technical and um, more intellectual than trying to live from your heart or living from um, any sort of ethereal influences. And so, anyways, I'm excited. I'm excited to go through some of this and talk to you about my journey and how we got here. And I thank you for that. It's a wonderful gift that
would you
this
like to
opportunity.
share a little bit about how you came to discover all the woo-woo, as you call it?
Yeah, sorry, that's maybe not fair, but um, yeah, it how do you explain it? When you look back at your life, you see, oh, okay, so that was spirit trying to tell me something, and oh yeah, I really messed that up because I didn't listen to spirit that time, and oh wow, all those times I felt awkward and strange and like I didn't belong, might have wanted to pay attention to that a little bit more, and all the years of my life I spent bending myself out of my comfort zone to please others becomes part of that story of how I got here. And eventually you recognize it or acknowledge it, or there's some event that boots you back into it and says you really need to pay attention to what you're feeling or what you're sensing. And after forcing myself to follow a career in mechanical engineering and struggling every day to find some sort of approval or validation as a human being, and every day you go to work and you trial and you suffer and you do all those things that we do in life, and every day you're wrong. It's just how wrong are you and whether or not it's going to get you fired. And everybody's always criticizing everything you say or do or think or decide. And there's always this group of people around you that are not holding you up. They're not supporting you. And a pivotal moment in my journey was my wife was like, wanted to go to an art show. And I'm like, I don't want to go to an art show. What do I want to go to an art show? I'm not an artist. That, it's meaningless to me, and we don't have any money to buy any art because art's really expensive and doesn't benefit your life at all. I mean, we need a new microwave. That's what I think we need, not a painting on the wall. Anyway, she dragged me to this art show, and at the art show, there was all the regular stuff, the paintings and pottery, and there was these two guys doing metal sculpture, and it blew me away. And I'm like, it's just like this huge light went off, like this searchlight went like, Andrew, this is you're a guardian angel. You need to pay attention to this. And I'm like, wow, what do I do? And and it just resonated with me that this was something a person could do. You could be creative and you could create really cool stuff. And I thought, I got all this creative energy that it's been, technically directed. And I happened to work at a company that did steel fabricating and machining, so there was lots of scrap metal around and lots of raw materials and tools to tamper into this. immerse myself, and I just felt really fired up, and I started making metal sculptures at my off hours at work, which is pretty alarming to most of my coworkers. And again, feeling pushed on, still feeling very nervous about it and very shy and very out of my element. I entered a couple of pieces in a juried art show, and I won best in show.
Wow.
And I got to go to the BC Festival of the Arts in British Columbia here, and so the first thing that happens is your head gets bigger than all outdoors because you think you're great and wonderful. And but the two things that really showed up was people liked me because of who I was. It was validating as a human being, and it said to me, Andrew, you're good enough to be in the room with us. You don't have to do anything else. You have a skill and ability, and we honor that. And so I was like, wow, you don't have to continuously prove my worth every day of my life. Like I could just be an artist. Like, holy cow. And and then because my wife's a musician, and we're surrounded by musical people and artistic and creative people, the message came in hard after that about where that creativity was coming from. And that was really important to understand that part of the journey and shrink the ego and shrink the head and get yourself back centered and realize that some of this is, I don't know whether divinely inspired is the word, but what I felt on that journey of being an artist was fulfilling what spirit wanted me to create and being the the hands-on technical skill set to create it. Like if you were a painter, then a painting comes through you and you have that energy and you see the colors and the layers and the textures and the vision and you create that image, but is that image coming through you or out of you or by you? And so I struggled. I went through that metamorphosis, and I quit my job. I quit my career. I kind of grenaded out of our life, and I was this artist, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And it was fairly devastating in a lot of ways, but that radical cold plunge awakening in the middle of my professional career was a big moment. Um, Another thing we were doing is we were going to a spiritual church, and um, the reverend in charge, I was on the board of directors. I was studying to be a minister for a little while. And the biggest problem I had with it wasn't that any of it was wrong or um, incongruent with what I thought. It was just brutally incomplete.
Mm.
Okay, so we were in the market for a house at one point, and we went to look at a house, and it was in a desirable neighborhood and was a bit of a fixer-upper, and the energy in it was so dark and so ominous and so overpowering. My wife, who's basically a medium in her own right, she couldn't go in it. She couldn't go in the house, and I went downstairs, and it felt like I had descended into um, hell would not be an exaggeration, but something where something very powerfully dark had happened and existed for a long time. And so when you come away from that, and I'm not mystic or psychic or anything, but or maybe I am. I don't know, but you feel the energy, and this is during that awakening period in my life. So you get bombarded with all this stuff, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, I can really feel this energy in this room, and I don't like it, and I'm not going to buy this house. Like it should be burnt to the ground and covered in concrete, like Chernobyl, right? Like something
Hmm.
bad happened here. And and so when you go to a spiritual church, and they're talking about your thoughts and words and deeds generate your reality, and you're in control, and spirit always says yes, and I want to manifest my life to be this beautiful, harmonious existence. And then, you go about your life and it's not beautiful, harmonious, and without trials and troubles, people um, messing things up. And so there was this incomplete view. And then I had this other spiritual side where I felt like, this creative force was pouring out of me in my artwork. And I was going to art shows, and I was selling art, and I was doing commissions, and having all of these feelings coming pouring out of me. It's like the plug and pulled out of my stubbornness, years and years of stubbornly denying it, and I didn't know where to put it. The metaphysical church just didn't really do it justice. They just wanted to focus on what you're doing in your life today, about your life today. It wasn't about what are the levels of consciousness, what is higher frequency living, what is 5D reality, what is all of it. What is this voice I hear in my head when I'm driving down the road and it tells me to turn left, and I'm like, I don't want to turn left. It's like, no, you need to turn left, and I'm like, okay, I'll turn left. And then, you're driving along and you're looking to your right and you're like, oh, those guys just had an accident. Isn't that cool? It's they're over there somewhere, and you're like, oh, good, thank you, Spirit. I just drove away. Um,
Right.
and so you have these events, and you're thinking, well, okay, so if it's just me and it's my mind and my reality that I'm creating, then what is all this other stuff that's coming at me? Where's that from? And what does that entail? And anyway, so I lived with that for quite a few years, trying to figure out how to be an artist, and I didn't like being a starving artist. That actually is not fun at all. I really like a comfort zone where I have a roof over my head and food and benefits, and it's Canada, so it's a social country, but we that only goes so far. I mean, you really like I like being comfortable. So I got a job that was at the behest of my wife's uncle who worked there, and totally nothing to do with my education or my background. It was just like I need a job to trade time for money that allows me to be creative. And that just fell right into my lap. And I've been doing that for 20 years plus years. And I'm nearing the end of that work cycle, looking forward to retirement. But where you and I met and how this part of that journey has unfolded is I started having like lucid dreams. And I think that's the right term, because basically I find myself in some sort of altered mental state when I'm sleeping, and something very dramatic happens, or some message comes through, or the dream caliber is pointedly different, like um, carries like a real strong emphasis of like, you need to pay attention to this. It's going to be a multi-layered experience, and you're going to be deeply disturbed by whatever happens. And that, I think, was triggered by the demise of my father, and the trial I had to go through resolving his estate actually was really the catalyst for opening that door, where I was just like, I can't do this. I can't fight this battle. I can't fight with these human beings in my life that are trying to unhinge the process. Like, I could deal with the technical side of it. I could deal with the lawyers and the realtors and disposing of assets. That's technical things that you just have to deal with. But there was people involved that were making my life a living hell because they had a vested interest and they couldn't release control. And so I was in this control dramas and a lot of stress, and I was still working full time. And through all of it, and I reached out and I asked for, well, I was just mad. I was just really mad. And so a new level of communication opened up, and this new um, etheric force came in. And it doesn't come very often, and it doesn't come by will, and I don't have any conscious control over it, but it has a dramatic effect on how I look at things. Anyhow, so
That,
here we are, and I met I sorry, I should probably just finish the line of thought. So last year, 2024, I was looking for something new in my life. The art had fallen to the wayside. My life had become a bit more drudgery, and I don't want to get into that because it's negative. It's just my other people influences, global economics and stuff. Can't do anything about it. So I was looking for a new growth direction for what I was feeling and experiencing on a day-to-day level, and I ended up discovering Ann Tucker and her channel, and met a bunch of really cool people, and suddenly again I was in a group where I could be authentic and validated and welcomed without ridicule or fear of reprisal.
Mhm.
like, oh, you're wrong, you don't know what you're doing, or oh, have you read this book or this manuscript or studied this thing? And I'm like, no, I haven't done any of that. Like, I'm just a guy who wants to talk about weird shit that happens when I'm sleeping or driving in or walking in the forest. And it's like, oh, I don't know. You and I met because you talked to Sasquatches, which I still think is phenomenally cool. And 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 realistically, Kathleen, like that was the big moment for me because I spent years and years and years staring into the forest looking for the damn Sasquatch, and I haven't found one yet.
Well,
And and I met
they
you, and it's been really interesting.
that must be why I chose to wear this, which is a gift that this was a gift from Sasquatch the day that I met them, spiritually met them.
Right.
And so I just put it on to for tonight. So I they will find you. They will find you when it's time. Uh, but they're well, I saw a meme that was a Sasquatch couple, and the woman is saying to the male, "But I never see you." And that, of course, nobody ever sees them, or very rarely do they see them. And so there are those who've had many, many encounters. I have seen them physically one time, and I just saw the top of the head. I've had many other kinds of experiences, but they're they just keep on believing. And they find the people with the big heart and who are open. So, but your story is really fascinating, and it resonates in some ways with me. I mean, mine was not very gradual. In hindsight, as I look back at my life, yes, there were signs that I just thought was normal. But what I would say about myself is that I was completely asleep for the first 50 years, and then waking up a little bit into the 3D reality and the fact that I had a few flaws that needed some serious work
Oh,
for 10 years. And then the sudden thing was meeting someone who looked at me and said, "You're you have gifts, and you need to you're not who you think you are, and you need to to follow this path." And it was like my head was spinning, but it led me to here. So, and I'm very happy that I'm here. And I was an accountant, not a typical accountant, but for 42 years.
were you a
And
mafia accountant?
no, no, I was a not-for-profit accountant.
Oh, okay.
That
I
it's a different animal.
would
But
imagine.
anyway, I there was one day that I it was a very spiritual experience that led to me walking out. And I know what it is to be a starving anything, because I was thought, well, I'll get a job right away. I've always have. But I was 62 years old. and things changed. Nobody really wanted anybody that far into their experience.
Yeah.
So I didn't find another job, but that's okay, because it gave me time to go deeper, which was what really needed to happen. So you're you have a lot more variety to what happened to you, but it does, when it happens, and I think they will keep nagging you. If you're really supposed to be on this journey, if you're supposed to be one of the way showers, if you're supposed to be someone who really lives it, they're going to keep at you until you accept it, I think. And
Right.
and so I appreciate you sharing the journey. Um, can you, do you have any magic that you practice other than your artwork or and your writing, because you are an excellent writer and
Oh,
you
thank you.
have beautiful descriptions of wonderful metaphysical things. I think that is something that you're sharing with us and probably needs to be shared to a wider audience. But do you practice anything, or do you just experience your magic?
Tricky question. Um, yeah. Yeah, I got a sideshow where I go out each day on the street corner and I pretend to be this psychic guy and read people's palms. No, that's funny. The and this is something that's always mystified me because I meet people, of course. I go to healing groups and I have spiritual healing people that I interact with, and by and large, mostly women, and they can just reel things off. The ones that are really dialed in, they just seem to be able to just like you walk in the room and they just read you and what you need to hear. And if you aren't listening to your angels, you aren't listening to your guides, they're there saying, "Listen, Bob's behind you there, and he wants you to know this." And just like, "Oh, okay, hi, Bob." I only use Bob because it's sort of a name that seems to apply to anybody. Anyhow, so I've had these other people in my life, and I think, wow, like I don't have that uh, a channel open at that level, and it's made me feel like less adept and less connected. And so I've interacted with these people, and I've interacted with a bunch of people that aren't very and pretend to be, and that's a different thing. But I can usually tell when
Mhm.
someone's really on point and really connected, and those people are actually reasonably rare, it seems. And a lot of them struggle with all of the same problems that the people in our group do without being understood, and you don't know what to do with your gifts, and you don't know how to move forward, and you're terrified, and you're uneasy about sharing with people, and you got all these people in your life, and you don't know whether you're supposed to approach them or not. And like my stepdaughter is a medium. She talks to spirits and talks to ghosts, and like you could be sitting in a restaurant, she'll come up and say, your mother's behind you and really wants to let you know she loves you. And the person's sitting there like, I've never met you and I don't like this coffee anymore. They freak right out, right? So she's had to transist that because the spirit recognizes her ability and wants to speak through her right now. The frustration on that side, I think, is very real. So for me, I look at it and I go like, okay, so I don't have this glaringly obvious channeling ability, but what I find sometimes is I'm channeling all the time.
Yeah,
And it never turns off, so it doesn't feel like it's ever on.
I
And
yeah.
and so when I sit down and write, um, whether it's in a group like the Facebook groups we've been in, or whether it's to anybody anywhere, my regular Facebook page is not that spiritual. It's more about me fighting through life like a normal human. Um, I really consciously years ago, because some part of me came through that was very destructive, and so I always say I want this to be for the highest and best good, and I want to do no harm. And that's a real challenge when you're writing stuff and your feelings, and you might be it's coming out of you, but it's a challenge not to put your filter on what's coming
Mhm.
through. And maybe that's sort of my magic, or what I try to share with the world is I get inspired, or somebody else says something, or contributes something, and you read it and go like bing, and you go like, oh, what's that inspiration? Oh, I should figure out what that is. And sometimes I'll write it down in Word and I'll think about it, and um, edit it and edit it and edit it and say, okay, take yourself out of this and just make it about whatever message you're trying to propagate, because that
Mhm.
message seems to have the integrity that resonates with a person or more than one person. Okay, so that's my written magic, and my online magic, I guess, is just trying to be that conductor of influence from some higher level of consciousness. And I think I achieve that sometimes. Um, is it,
Yes, you do.
and
You're,
the second thing is that this become, and this flows in and out, like it changes all the time. But I work in a blue collar job with a lot of people that I've never thought about much of anything other than the latest hockey game scores or um, what a good fishing spot is.
hmm
And they have a lot of problems in their life. And when I work with them one on one, because it's just two of us at work at any given shift, and always someone different, which is nice. Um, I've come to be a person that they can trust and confide in, and
hmm
that I have this ability one on one to sometimes, and not always to the benefit of me, to hear what they need told to them.
Yes.
And I don't know what other psychic people do or other channelers. It feels like a form of channeling to me now when
Yeah.
I look back at it. It's like, oh, I'm channeling their spirit guide because they won't listen to them, right? Like, um, or they can't, or they haven't developed an ear for it, and so I think about, like, words just come out of my mouth. Like, there was this one friend of mine from high school dropped in for a visit after 30 years of never speaking to her. And she came with another friend, and they came to visit us because they were passing through. They thought, oh, let's go see Andrew. We had an online relationship, and that was it. We had physically been around each other since high school, and we're sitting there over breakfast talking about things, and she says, my teenage daughter is causing me a lot of grief, and we were talking about parenting and stuff, and I looked to her and I said, have you ever got her counseling for you not dying? And she looked at me and she said, what do you mean? I said, well, most of her life, you've been fighting cancer. You've had a double mastectomy. You've nearly died. Every day of your daughter's life, she's faced the reality might be the last day of her mother's life. And she's had her childhood stolen from her. And no fault to anybody. This is not a blame
No.
game or anything else, but she's a teenager now, and this is a highly volatile thing. She's acting out because you lived. You
Yeah.
survived. You're a cancer survivor. Yay. Everybody's cheering you, and you're the center of attention, and you're the hero, and you're the person who's victorious. And most of her life, she's probably sat in the shadow of that reality of constant mortality of her mother. Now, I don't know where that came from, and I'm not a therapist or psychiatrist or anything, but it hit her like a ton of bricks. Like, oh my God, this is so right on point. And then that's it. Then the connection's gone. And I'm like, I don't know, like, how's the coffee, right? Like, I don't know what to say next. And you get that. I don't know where it came from. I didn't go into a meditation. I didn't have to, like, I'm holding a crystal right now just because it's grounding for me. There's none of that. There's none of that woo-woo stuff. You're just having eggs and bacon and coffee and talking about life, and these moments pop out. And I think that's the other part of my magic, aside from the writing, is that when I'm with someone one on one, sometimes it comes out. And I just have to embrace that.
Well, let me just share a couple things. Since we've been talking, and at certain points, what you say makes my crown open up, which is something that I feel when there's a spiritual connection. The second thing is you're a natural healer, whether that is by sharing wisdom or just walking through a grocery store where your energy has an effect on other people. And because you carry a high vibration, and as you walk past somebody, their vibration, if it's close, if it's really low, there's just no connection, and you probably don't feel like being in the aisle with them. But people notice, people see, people realize that your smile is valuable, that your energy is valuable. They don't know this in their brains, but they know this in their energy. And so you are having an effect. I believe that we do that, but the wisdom that comes from your channeling, it can be from your higher self, from their higher self, from whatever, but you are you have accepted the role of being the wisdom speaker. So you you get to do that, and that is big magic, and that is going to be needed more and more as we shift through whatever we're going to shift through here, because uh, right now people are living in chaos, and they're fearful, and but you're not fearful, and so you walk in, and it's like they can feel that he's not afraid. Why is he not worried about all this stuff? I want some of that. And that's what's going to happen more and more. And that the reason that your friends decided to drop in on you is because they were called to get that message. So
Yeah.
keep working your magic, and you've got more magic coming. You've got more magic coming. And the thing is, what I've found with myself is I can say stop anytime. I can say, no, I don't want to do that, but I don't. I wouldn't do anything that is uncomfortable for me, or is I don't want to do anything that is for entertainment, you know.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't.
Yeah.
There some of the things, some of my gifts include some things that other people have used as entertainment. But I'm not an entertainer. I am
Right.
a communicator, and that's why we're talking today, because
Yes.
I believe that there are beautiful, magical men who are there, who society has said, you can't be woo-woo, you're a man, you know. So that's why I want to introduce people to beautiful, magical men. And that's why you're here. And besides, you impressed me with your writing and your ideas and so forth, and I consider us friends now. So
Yeah.
so
100%. 100%. We're in this together, Kathleen. Like
I
we can't
know.
escape each other now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that actually has become a bit of a calling, and it's shown up in my writing and some of my commentary online is that um, men are very poorly represented in the circle of people that I experience, and it's my experience. It could be wrong, but most of them have never tried to put to words what they've been feeling, and lots of them have had feelings and had inspirations and had connection and felt intimidated or resistant to share or talk about these things. And that's an uphill battle, and I just pick away at it as it comes up. I'm not hanging a shingle outside like men's therapy group tonight, Tuesday. It,
No, but
but
there you could you could pick subjects that are a little more socially acceptable, like Bigfoot.
yeah,
Because they are very mystical. They're very spiritual. I have a picture from my trip to Canada of a portal above my camper. And it's very obvious that there was the portal above my camper. And
that's powerful.
it is. And they're just, they're my friends, they're my family too. But that or people know about Reiki. Uh, that's a word, but there's energy healing. You can call it Reiki, but it's a whole lot more.
Yeah.
It is
Oh
just a
yeah.
whole lot more, and many people can do it. But it was interesting when I first was introduced to Sasquatch, and this happened in 2019. I I had no idea, and whenever someone asked me if I may be Sasquatch or I may have a connection to Sasquatch, I said, well, maybe. And then immediately I was flooded with the the acceptance, the attunement, the you know, and from then on I was changed. So um, you'll find there are subjects you can open up. Um, is there anything mystical about fishing?
It doesn't usually end well for the fish.
Well, that's true.
I'm going into the light. I'm going into the light. Hey,
That's
it's
true.
dinner.
Maybe not, but it's contemplative.
No,
So,
I use that as an example because I actually I'm not a fishing guy, and I got a
oh,
bunch of friends that are, and they love it. And I've been fishing, and I'm like, okay, we went fishing. And I got some dinner out of the water. It was good. Um, but no, I'm more. I spend a lot of time alone.
yeah.
Because of my job more than anything else, and because my schedule is totally out of whack with everybody else on the planet. So, I'll take the dog for a walk in the forest. I'm blessed to live somewhere in the forest. Like you'd probably, if you visited me, you'd be like, "Oh, look, the trees are full of Sasquatches and little people and fairy folk, and look at all these little mystical creatures running around." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, they're there, but I can't see them, but I accept that you do." And but the energy is there, and I live in this virgin wilderness that doesn't have residual psychic energy from people. So
How nice.
I think that, and of course my job takes me through wilderness that you've traveled some of this by train. You understand what it looks like. It's stunning wilderness, and you just look out at the majesty and the mystery and the magic of it all, and you go like, wow, that's every time, and you're just like, I've seen this 100 times and I'm still blown away by it, and I have that in my daily life. So I can visit a big city. I've visited some of the most densely populated cities on the planet, and you can experience that, but I don't want to stay there.
No,
And
no.
and so I think that's a big thing with anybody who's empathic, because the empathy is the other side of this, is I feel people's emotions.
Yes.
And you can sense things that people are going through that are distant to you and yet still in proximity, whether it's the guy behind you in traffic or the person four behind you in the lineup at the grocery store, or you pick up on those energies, and I struggle in a heavily crowded environment. It's just overwhelming, and part of me just shuts down, and you go like, okay, I can't. Pull in all your antennas and all your feelers and just put up a wall around yourself and go like, I can get through this. Please let me get through this. I don't want to feel 10,000 people's input right now. And so I don't know, I kind of lost my train of thought, but it just the next step, I think, is the writing, and people resonate with that, and spirit compels me and pushes me, and then I pull back and I say, okay, I don't understand something. I need to understand it before I move to the next um, expression. And so that's sort of where we're at. It's where we're at with our group, and um, soon is phenomenal. um, for people sharing and for throwing stuff out there and seeing what you get back. And
It is a good
there's your
group.
fishing analogy right there. You throw the bait and the hook in the water, and you see, oh, there's Bob or Adela or Altapan, and they go like, oh, yeah, yeah, okay, there's a thread we can all tie onto, and see where it goes.
Yeah.
Metaphysical fisherman. That's funny. I like that.
Well, so my next question is, what are you offering to the world? And I hope it's all of that. You're already offering your vibration, your healing, your wisdom to the world, but uh, I'm hoping that maybe you will uh, publish a book. And I realize how difficult that can be. I've probably started 21 times, and they're just paper, and they're just words. And the problem is, every time you think, well, this is my story, it changes and it
Bingo.
grows. And there's something a little more magic than there was in the last paragraph, or whatever. So, but you have a way of really explaining and embellishing and describing some of your experiences that's it's very thought-provoking, first of all. And so it offers a little different perspective for people to ponder. And so, and we need that. We need that. Uh, because we've been taught this is the box that we've been put in, that we've been taught. And we've all had these aha moments of realization of a truth when we hear it, and then that changes things. But
Right.
you can give a different perspective, a wider perspective, and you write it so eloquently.
Well, thank you.
So I'll sign up for your first book.
Yeah, thank you. It's so kind of you. I really appreciate that it's had that. It's been effective and honest and authentic and received well, I guess is because I try to do it with that intent. And oddly, that's one of the holdbacks now because I've been burned before. And like you say you don't want to do the entertainment side, and yet here we are interacting on YouTube, doing an interview, and this is entertainment. People are going to watch this and they're going to connect, and it feels very authentic and very genuine at this level. But I think when you make it into a business and you're trying to pay your bills off of it, something changes, and it doesn't necessarily lose all of its authenticity, but you bring an energy into it that might not further it. And I'm dealing with that right now because you write a book. Say I write a book. Say I write a book about all my experiences. People are like, oh, you're so connected. You're so amazing. I want your autograph, and you're my hero. And I don't want that. I don't want that because the ego comes screaming to the forefront and goes like, oh my God, you're so amazingly talented, and look how gifted you are, and you should be on Joe Rogan. You should, like do a bigger podcast, your audience, and then you get people like trolling you and stuff, and you're like, oh God, I can't really deal with that negative energy. And so I build that up in my head, and I think like, oh, I kind of defeat myself in the process. But realistically, Kathleen, if I could find that path forward that's genuine and authentic and not about me, but from me through my filter. I,
I understand that. I understand that. And I do not monetize my YouTube channel. And what I do is if someone comes to me for an individual kind of reading, I don't go out and say, here, do this, and here I am. But because word of mouth has brought a few people to me, and the hardest thing for me to do is name a price.
right.
But uh, I mostly do it free, but I do expect if someone comes to me, they're expecting to have to pay something, and uh, but it's but I like my YouTube channel. That's for whoever finds it. And right now I have 80 subscribers is all I have. I used to have 82, but two people left me in this last week, but that's fine. Because I'm surprised I have 80. But I've had a couple of things that have garnered more views, but I do read the comments. I've actually asked my guides to get in the way technically for anybody who wants to hate, because I'm very sensitive. I don't want to be hated. But I don't
So-
get that many comments. So as long and I what I've asked for is that the people that will benefit from hearing from me. So I do this. I don't do it for entertainment, but I ask my team, the ones who work with me, to facilitate it. it's like many years ago, I said, all right, guys, if you want me to do this, then you need to support me. Allow me to do it so that I can pay my bills. And one of the things that happened that proved it was I was about to move into an apartment complex because I haven't had a job since I'm 62. And I just have Social Security. So, you know, but I was about to move into an apartment that was income restricted, and something fell through at the very last moment. I'd already given my notice, but this particular complex was also building um, little houses like duplexes that were market rate. And as I was driving out of there that day, I said, okay, universe, you can either reduce my bills or increase my income so that I can live in this nice place. I lived in there 5 years
Well,
and never ever missed a rent payment or any other bill because when I needed money, something would come without me advertising, without me going and marketing myself or anything like that. It happens because I trust and I've got that deal with them. If they want me to do this, they got to facilitate it for me. Back when mediumship first came in, and I was like your stepdaughter, I would be in a restaurant and I would get these messages and I want to give these messages, but I didn't know exactly what to do. So I made another deal with the group. I said, if I'm meant to give a message, facilitate it. Have them say hello, have them do something. And the funny thing is, several people would come up and say, oh, I like your hair. And I thought, this has got to be a message because there's not all that much there to like. But but that was how I did. I made a deal and support me if you want me to do this. And whether it's a deal with my higher self or my team or God or whatever, whoever it is, I know I'm working with other vibrations and I ask them to participate. So far, I've not gotten any hateful messages. I feel like if somebody wants to do that, they're going to have trouble typing till they're frustrated and they just quit. They can go hate on somebody else. But you know, I think for me, I question myself and my abilities, and I have been chastised by my team saying, now, why are you doubting yourself? We're helping you.
yeah,
So I would still like to see your book, but it's always your choice. It's always your choice. And I'm just saying that what you have to say is valuable.
thank you. Thank you. I think what you do is really cool, actually, and I think this YouTube venture of yours is, I think it's going to bring some connection that you're going to be pleased with.
I never expected to do any of this stuff.
Right. You're outside your comfort zone, and
Yeah.
that's part of the process is we push ourselves outside our comfort zone. And just incidentally, like that time I did call you on FaceTime, I told my wife and she's like, "You did what?" And I said, "Yeah, I just called this lady in Indianapolis and Indiana, right?"
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Indiana. Yeah,
Yeah.
close.
And 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 talk to her about Sasquatches and psychic stuff and being a medium, and she talked in light language, which I've never heard before. And my wife's like, "Are you losing your mind? Like, who are you?" Because
Oh, really?
it's totally outside my character to reach out like that. And I think that's a big part of this process for both of us is to try to reach out a bit more, be more connected, be more present, be more available. It's terrifying. And I probably got all kinds of people, if they ever watch this video, they'd be like, "Oh, I didn't know that was you." You know,
Well,
they'd
that's
freak out like, you seemed so angry last time I saw you. And,
Well, the
it's
thing is,
just,
with only 80 subscribers, and you can share this with whomever you wish. I'm going to put it on YouTube, and it's up to you whether we want to put it on our Facebook group. But
I don't
that,
mind.
okay,
I
so
don't
it,
mind with that at all. I don't think I've covered anything that's deeply personal or terribly traumatic today. I just talked about being sensitive to everything.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Um,
do you have any words of wisdom for us?
I, if anything, it would be like reiterating what we've already covered, is to trust that process. Like you just talked about it so eloquently with your own story about how you have to trust a bit and you have to be willing to let go of your conditioning and your control. And I think the thing that's come through lately is that speaking your intention, like, if you want me to do this, you're going to have to meet me halfway, or you're going to have to help me find the words to say it in a way that's beneficial and not offensive, or do a thing that benefits rather than limits.
Hmm.
And I think that's our way shower position in this process, is to show people that you can participate and you can be open and you can be honest and you can be vulnerable and you can accept the guidance that's being offered to you. And if everybody's on board, or 80 people are on board, or 10 people respond, or one, it's okay. You're still doing what you were meant to do. And that's it. And that's where I am. That's what I feel about all of this. Like, it's just, it feels right. Go
Yes.
with it. Go with it.
And that's the important thing, because our bodies will tell us if we're doing something that we don't want to do or are not supposed to do. We tense
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And then we just need to learn to listen to what our bodies are telling us. I want to thank you so much for this opportunity to introduce you to a few more people. And I hope we can do this again, and we'll just keep on keeping on. And
I
I'm
appreciate
going
it.
to say to everyone who's listening, I notice my face is really red. What, what is that about? Well, it's probably spirits. They do that
Just
sometimes.
a little bit of
Um,
joy.
but I wasn't looking at myself, so I didn't know. But anyway, I want to say to everyone out there who's listening, thank you for listening. We love you. I'm speaking for you too. We
Absolutely.
appreciate that we're all on this journey together, and that we are going to make it. We are doing the right thing. All we need to do is spread the love. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much.